we have got a main event for ONE's return to Qatar. ONE 166 on March 1st. Sees the promotion come back to Qatar, and we have our main event announced for that date. We knew it was going to be a big event, and we've got a main event that goes hand in hand with that. The returning middleweight champion, Reinier de Ridder, takes on Anatoly Malykhin, the man that beat him for his light heavyweight title, in a huge main event, a potentially historic main event. However, if you checked out my video on this channel about what I want to see next from every champion in the promotion, I actually said that I didn't want this fight next for both men. I'll explain why, because that makes it sound like I don't like this fight and that I don't think it's a great matchup. It is both of those things, and of course it is potentially historic, which, you know, again, this card, we knew it would be a big occasion, so that is, you know, that makes a lot of sense. However, let me talk about this and explain my reasoning. Should we start with Reinier de Ridder or Anatoly Malykhin? Let's start with Anatoly Malykhin. Now, of course, he has the potential to make history with this fight. No one in any major MMA organization has ever become a 3-weight world champion. He, of course, is undefeated. He is the holder of the heavyweight title and the light heavyweight title. He beat de Ridder for the light heavyweight title at the end of 2022, and then this year he was already the interim heavyweight champion. He became the full heavyweight champion with his one fight that we saw of him in 2023, where he beat the returning Arjan Bula to unify the belt. And, you know, the fact of the matter is we haven't really seen anyone that's been able to test Malykhin so far. The guy is an absolute monster. A very, very good wrestling background, crazy one-punch knockout power, but the most interesting thing about him is that he is this new breed of heavyweight, right? These super athletic guys like the likes of Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gane, that aren't these heavyweight sluggers that we've been accustomed to seeing. You might think, big Russian heavyweight, he's got power, he's got a wrestling background, and then you see how fast he is, his footwork, his combinations, right? Super high on Anatoly Malykhin. I think he is one of the best fighters in the promotion. Obviously, he's a 2-weight world champion undefeated, so it goes without saying. But the big question for him in this fight is he going to make middleweight? Of course, with One Championship's weight cutting system that is in place, you not only have to make the weight but pass a hydration test, and you would imagine that for him to get down to middleweight, he's going to have to cut a lot of water. I would imagine that the reason we've only seen him once this year is because this fight has been on the horizon and in the works, and he has been, you know, getting himself ready to cut down to that weight, because of course the last time we saw him this year he was competing at heavyweight against Arjan Bula, and now he's going to drop down 2 weight classes. So that is the big question for me, is can he make the weight safely? Because I honestly think that if he makes the weight safely, this could be a tough night for RDR. Again, we haven't seen Reinier de Ridder compete in MMA throughout 2023. We did see him come back for that grappling match against Ty Rotolo at One Fight Night 10, which Ty won, and it was, you know, not a great contest. RDR, you know, very tough to take down, so ended up being a bit of a clinch battle, which, you know, no one really wanted to see, but you can understand why RDR wouldn't necessarily want to get involved in the ground submission game of Ty Rotolo and, you know, try and keep the fight where he wanted it. And yeah, we haven't seen RDR since the first loss of his career, no less, to Malykhin, and a first round knockout loss as well. And whilst I've spoken already about history being on the line for Malykhin, how I think that he has a really good chance of becoming the first ever 3-weight world champion if he makes the weight safely. What a story it would be for RDR to, you know, lose his first ever pro fight to Malykhin, lose the light heavyweight title, and then, you know, at middleweight, his more natural weight class, to go and to beat the Russian. I've realised that I'm speaking really loudly, so that's why there was a little bit of a pause there. What a story it would be. What a story it would be for RDR, you know, the redemption arc, to go out there and do that. So it's an interesting one, you know. It makes a lot of sense, I think, for a main event matchup, you know, like I said, potentially, you know, history on the line, all that stuff. But it worries me that if Malykhin wins, where does RDR go from here? Because he's lost his light heavyweight title and his middleweight title to the same man. One's MMA divisions have not been incredibly active over the last year or so, and so there aren't a ton of contenders for him to just go and face and build his way back up to the title. And then you have Malykhin holding 3 titles, right? You've also got, the fact that Christian Lee owns 2 titles in one championship. So you've got 5 weight classes taken up by 2 men. So if there was an issue with one championship's MMA divisions not being kept active enough as of late, that's a lot of titles held up by 2 men that, haven't fought a lot lately. That's a bit concerning. But I think this fight makes a lot of sense for this card. And like I said, whilst I worry that this matchup will be difficult for RDR, if he's able to do it, what a story. And if Malykhin's able to do it, history making, right? So, makes sense from that standpoint, and fair play to RDR for backing himself as the middleweight champion. Also on this card, we have had a few more fights announced. There is a second title fight, of course, on this card. You've got the strawweight champion Jared Brooks, who beat Joshua Pacio at the end of 2022 at 164. Pacio went away this year and beat Mansour Malachiev, who I think a lot of people are looking at as the next title challenger, but Pacio beat him and looked good doing it, and so we get the rematch, Pacio versus Brooks. Of course, Pacio has been in this position plenty of times where, he's lost this title and had to, put the challenger hat back on and work his way back to that title and reclaim it successfully. So he's been there and done it before. Makes a lot of sense, this fight. I think, as soon as Pacio beat Malachiev, it was like, okay, we're doing this one again. That makes sense. And Pacio probably deserving of a rematch anyway, I think. So that's an exciting one. I think I'm very, very interested to see what adjustments Pacio makes, because that first fight I didn't think was very close. So yeah, a lot of answers, a lot of questions to answer for Joshua the Passion Pacio on that return. You've also got a heavyweight matchup, Arjan Buller back in action. Who would have guessed? Taking on Amir Al-Akbari, who I thought would be the next title challenger for Malykhin. Again, I said that in the video that I put out about all the one champions. And you would imagine that the winner of that will probably fight Malykhin for the heavyweight title some point in 2024. I don't think they're going to be a whole lot of people asking to see Buller in there again after all of the history between him and Malykhin and how long it took for us to finally see that fight. So, yeah, not sure about that one, but Ali Akbari, I think there's a decent case to be made for him being deserving of a rematch with Malykhin. He was beaten by Malykhin in convincing fashion, but, his win streak since then has been impressive, and there isn't really anyone else. I think that he would be the guy if you want to keep Malykhin somewhat active as champion. And finally, you've got, is it Kleber Souza? Let me just check. Yeah, Kleber Souza taking on Osama Al-Marwei. Of course, 2 former opponents of Mikey Musumeci, the one flyweight submission grappling world champion. So this is one of the things that I called for in that video about one championship champions. For the submission grappling divisions, I just want to see people be more active, so that it feels like people earn these title shots, and when we see them compete against each other, we can find out who the best contenders are to face Musumeci. Otherwise, it feels like we're just putting people in and saying, well, look at all these accolades they have, and then they don't perform very well against Musumeci, and you go, oh, well, were they really that good anyway? We need to see the contenders facing each other in order to determine who the best contender is, and then also to show that, these guys are very good. It's just Musumeci is maybe the best in the world. He is at his weight class. So I think that, whilst I'm not like, oh, what an incredible fight, what an incredible matchup, really, really good signs that One Championship is keeping some of these submission grappling guys busy outside of just title fights, which we get once every now and then. So there you go. That is running down the kind of the big announcement for 1166, my reaction to Anatoly Malykhin versus Reinier de Ridder, and then also talking through some of the other fights that have been announced so far. I, of course, will have a full card preview up for this event a lot closer to the date. I didn't expect to be making another video before the end of the new year, but here we are. It's a huge fight, so and a huge MMA fight from One Championship. You love to see it. So exciting stuff, and I will be back probably very soon to preview a couple of big events that we have coming up in January. So I look forward to those. Enjoy the fights if I don't see you before then, but I'm sure, hopefully, I catch you on the next video. See you in a bit.